Hi, I'm Tracy Sofra and welcome to the Women of Wealth podcast. Today, I'm going to be sharing some money lessons that are gifted from mother to daughter. Yeah? I recently spoke to 4 of my long-term clients and they shared their money lessons, some advice and tips and tricks that they've learnt from their mums and the impact that that's had on their lives. And you know what? I'm going to share all of that with you in this podcast because I thought this would be an amazing few stories to tell you. So I asked them a few questions, but before I dive into my questions to them and their answers, let me just fill you in about how your mum has shaped your financial behaviours. Did you know that our childhood experiences influence our money habits and behaviours even now? Yep. The emotions, the feelings, the conversations and experiences you had in your formative years have undoubtedly affected the way you perceive and manage money, without a doubt. We call this your money story. So it's what you felt, what you saw. It's the whole experience of growing up in that household. And that is exactly how all of us go through our formative years and come out the other end. And that is our money story. That is, and we take that money story into our adult life, business as usual. We don't think twice and we just repeat the same pattern unless there is a circuit breaker that changes that. The fact is, each one of us have internalized many of our parents' attitudes, traits and behaviours when it comes to money, without a doubt. Some resourceful and some not. And these lessons are often deep-seated. So have a think about your own childhood. How much has your mum influenced your money habits and relationships with money? Think about that for a minute. Did she proactively pass down any money advice, or did you learn by just simply observing? My mum was not a very, she was sort of a distant type woman. So I observed her rather than her passing down any wisdom to me. So that was more observation. Was yours like that? Or did she sit you down and teach you, when you got your first job, did she say, come over here, this is what you need to do with your first pay packet, you need to put this, you need to set up a savings account. Was that the conversation that you had? Did you see her manage money well, or did she avoid money? What did you see? What happened in the household? Who was the boss? Who was in charge of the money or the financial decisions? Was she a saver, an investor, or was she a spender? How did your mum talk about money? Or did she talk about money at all? So I'm going to share with you 4 business women who have 4 supporting mums supporting them and their gems of wisdom. So in celebration of our mums, I asked these 4 incredible women to share their stories, and I'm about to share them with you now. So client number 1, and I'm going to call them client number 1, obviously for privacy purposes. And I asked, what's the best or most memorable financial advice or money tip your mother ever gave you? And her answer was, my mother grew up in a farm, and from this experience, she was very good at repurposing and only buying new when necessary. So she was quite frugal and she repurposed most things. It had definitely influenced me as I am very thoughtful before spending money. I like to buy quality items that will last. Can you see the onflow of her mother's actions about repurposing and only buying when necessary? And that's filtered through into client number 1's life. So our tip here is, if we were to stand back and look at this, think about your purchases carefully. We call this conscious spending. Conscious spending is so important. Stop before you buy. Think, do I really need this? Be mindful of what you're doing. Check in on yourself and check in on the emotion that is driving that purchase in the first place. There's a little money tip for you there. Second question I asked client 1 is, how has your mum impacted your financial decisions, money management, or life in general? And she said, my mother taught me that money does not equal happiness. Human connection and strong relationships are the key to contentment and fulfillment in life. And she taught me to be incredibly generous with connecting with humans. The human connection is most important. And to this very day, that is what I do. So there's an interesting take on that from a money perspective. And my tip here is that you need to realize that money has no meaning other than what we give it. Money is simply a medium that we use to achieve the type of life that we want. So what makes you happy is the question. What makes your heart sing? And how can you use your money to do more of that? Client number 2, different story, different person, different upbringing, different story altogether. So I asked client number 2, what is one piece of advice or pearl of financial wisdom you'd like to pass down to your children or a young person in your life? And she said, the philosophy I'd like my children to embrace is save most and spend some. Great philosophy. Save most and spend some. Isn't that a great philosophy? And contribute to causes that you care for. So the giving. So give. So my tip here is there is extensive research to suggest that giving is good for our well-being. It makes you feel good, doesn't it? People who often feel greater satisfaction, happiness in life, they do because of the giving. So let's get giving today is my little tip there. I also went on to ask, what would you like to thank or acknowledge your mum for? And she said, being an inspirational role model, my mum was determined to invest time in independently learning how to best manage her money, whilst also adapting to and learning a new way of life in a new country. She had migrated to Australia, not to mention self-learning the English language. Wow, pardon the pun. So what a strong, determined woman with the language barrier that she invested her time in independent learning of how to best manage her money while learning the language at the same time. That would not have been easy. Moving on to client number 3, I asked client number 3, what's the best or most memorable financial advice or money tip your mum ever gave you? And client number 3 said, when I started my first business in my 20s, my first client was a high-profile client, having always been paid on a monthly basis in previous full-time roles. I was not prepared for the fact that they didn't pay within the month. It took them over 90 days, and as a small business starting out, that was tough. I still had to pay rent on a flat, had to pay for petrol, had to pay for food, had to eat. When the cheque finally arrived, my mum told me to photocopy it as a reminder that not everyone will honour your payment terms and cash flow is king. Don't I always say that? I often think of this life lesson and it served me well. So our tip is create your contingency bank balance, which is best practice 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses, so you have a financial safety net. And that should see you through, particularly in situations where people are not paying on time. The next question I asked this particular client was, what is the one piece of advice or pearl of wisdom you'd like to pass on to your daughters? And she said, believe in your talents and take risks. Learn from the life lessons you are given, make them once and do not repeat them. Yes. Exclamation mark there. My daughter grew up experiencing what it's like to be at the top of your game, yet she's also experienced the financial challenges I sometimes face juggling it all, because let's face it, life can be a juggle. Absolutely. I took a few financial risks years ago and downsized my business to focus on securing our personal freedom, and then gave up a great business to start again with powerful steps. In terms of cash flow, this was 0 to 0. I always knew I could build another global business that would empower others, and she was right by my side, encouraging me to do it. What an incredible role model. I got goosebumps reading that. What a better way to learn than watching your mum do that and being there by her side. She goes on to say, I like to think because of these shared experiences, she is capable of achieving anything she wants in this lifetime. Absolutely, absolutely. Words in action are so much more powerful than just words. So our tip here is, what an empowering lesson, first and foremost. And this is leadership at its best, is it not? We do, however, know that not every daughter will be fortunate enough to receive these messages like this, and often poverty-based or negative money messages are passed from generation to generation. It is generational unless we stop that cycle. So for our listeners, if you want to better understand your own money story, you can learn more through our Empower program at Wow Women. And you can rewrite that story. We specifically work on that within that program and uncover your money story, and you get to rewrite that money story, because once you're aware of your financial patterns and what is actually going on, you're able to make better informed decisions from that point on. You don't have to repeat the cycle. Finally, client 4. Okay, so what is that question I asked client 4 was, what is the best or most memorable financial advice or money tip your mother ever gave you? And she says, my mum is extremely conservative with her money. She never worked or earned money, although I always observed how structured and careful she was with her budgeting and spending habits. Might I just say, just in here, women are incredibly confident in budgeting and spending in the home front. Very, very high level of confidence here. So while she never sat down with me to discuss financial planning or give me tips on how to manage my money, what I observed with her as a child has stayed with me. So clearly these budgeting and spending habits and how careful she was has stayed with this particular client of mine. So our tip is, a budget is one of the absolutely most important financial tools at your disposal. So get started by checking out our Money Mentor program at Wow Women to better understand the financial position that you're in at the moment and to take control of your money again, finally, again. Final question I asked this particular client, what is one piece of advice or pearl of financial wisdom you'd like to pass down to your daughter? And she said, lo and behold, guess what she said? Investing. As a child, I constantly heard about saving and living within my means and how debt is a very bad thing. Overall, my upbringing in terms of money was conservative and limited. As a result, I struggled with investment decisions throughout my 20s and early 30s, despite having a career in financial services. Get that, financial services career, and struggling with investing because of her money story. Today, I have a diversified investment portfolio, some funded with equity and some with debt, and this has made me realise about the significant gap in my financial education as a child and how that influenced me for such a long time. I would like my daughter to be open-minded and brave about investing, taking calculated risks, and planning long-term goals, as long-term goals goes a long way in ensuring financial security and stability in the future. What great advice. And we couldn't agree more. Our tip is, we could not agree more. Our philosophy is, if you can shop for shoes, you can shop for shares, right? Yep. I mean, who doesn't love shoes? But if you can shop for shoes, you can shop for shares. And I just want you to reconsider that, and don't be shy. Learn about the basics of investing. Your future self will thank you for it. So now it's your turn. Did you notice each woman had different money messages growing up? They've helped shape the women that they are today. And what gems of wisdom has your mum passed down to you? And how has that impacted your financial success? So if you've got any of those, why not tell your mum how she's impacted your life for the better, if that's the case, and sit down, if your mum's still around, sit down with her and talk about the money stories. Talk about what it felt like when you were a kid at home, and talk about all of this. And if you've picked up some great pearls of wisdom and some great things, let her know. It will make her day, absolutely make her day. If this is something you want to achieve in your life, if you want to go from, if you have a money story that is not allowing you to make the correct financial decisions that will serve you and not hinder you, and that your future self will thank you for, you can change that. You're not stuck with that. If you want to change your money story and you want to progress and push through that barrier and come out the other end with your own money story as an adult today and take control of your finances to then invest and set yourself up for the future, make sure that you book a call with one of our strategists at Wow Women. All you need to do is go to wowwomen.com.au, click the link to our programs, and best of all, the call with the strategist is free. Make sure to subscribe now to our podcast on your favourite podcast platform, and please check out all our other episodes that may be of interest to you. Thank you for joining me.